Hey everyone, so today I just wanted to yap a little bit about things that I'm hoping we get in 0.4 when that drops. And the first thing I want to mention, now this has already been confirmed, but we are getting a trade warning. So if you go to someone's shop and you're trying to buy, say, Sacred Flame Shrine Scepters for 55 exalts apiece, if you try buying one that is more or less expensive or for a different currency, we're now going to get a warning. And this is something that should have been added 3 months ago. As soon as players started trying to pull this scam, this should have been looked at. And now, 3 months later, thousands, if not maybe even tens of thousands of players have fallen victim to this scam for tens of thousands plus worth of divines. And for the past 3 months, GGG has just been like, well, too bad. So I am glad we're finally getting it. I do want to explain, these are listed for 55 because of the gain 48% damage as extra fire damage. These are kind of low rolled. This is 58%. It's a little bit higher, 400 exalts. So that's been confirmed already. The reason I'm adding it into this video, the things that I'm hoping for, is I'm hoping they do it right. So if you're buying items, we'll say, tier 15 waystones, if you're clicking through, 20 exalts, 20, 20, 20, 20, and then you hit one for 20 divines, I'm hoping the window appears not over the trade window, so you don't accidentally just click through. You click on one for 20 divines, you're just spam clicking, and then you instantly hit accept. So I'm hoping that the confirmation window, of course, appears somewhere that isn't overlapping what you're trying to purchase. And a bonus point if there's a checkbox that says don't show me again. So you can disable the warning while you're in a specific hideout. So I'm really hoping they go all out so that players stop getting scammed. Again, this is something that should have been done so long ago. The next thing is tower juicing. Now, I imagine GGG is vastly improving the endgame for 0.4, right? Just bigger and better each league. And I don't know what they're currently planning, but something that would make mapping so much better is bringing back previous tower juicing and also having the current individual waystone juicing, but not double dipping. So what I mean by this is, what if you could still put in 3 precursor tablets in a tower and have that tower affect, say, 20 nodes if you run a tier 16 map? So the idea is, if you use tablets in a tower, they would affect up to 20 maps. There would be no global aura. So we can see this node, this is a pre-juiced node that was being hit by tablets, and it has the effect of tablets. This is not what would happen. So all 3 tablets that you use in a tower would affect up to 20 nodes, which would leave some nodes completely unjuiced. That's where a single map node juicing comes into place. So just combining the best of both systems. And why this would be so good is because if you see a tower in the distance, you're like, okay, I want to path over to that, and I want to use 3 tablets in that tower because I'd get twice as many uses out of my tablets. So you path to a tower, you do it, you put in 3 tablets, they affect up to 100% additional nodes if you run a tier 16 map. So you'd use your expensive tablets, your very valuable tablets, 10-ish divines worth of tablets in towers, so you get effectively twice as many uses out of them. And then if you are pathing and there's no benefit to a node, that's where maybe semi less valuable tablets come into play, just for the sake of pathing. And again, this is just combining the best of both features. In addition to this, something else that I'm hoping for in 0.4, and probably a lot of people, 1 extra portal per map. I'm part of the community that does not like 1 portal maps. And I'm a turbo juicer, like almost level 98. I almost never die. So one portal, it doesn't really affect me and probably the top maybe 5% of players that are just not dying in maps. Now the thing is, dying and losing a map, especially if your build isn't that good and you're maybe dying like maybe 1 out of every 5 maps, it just doesn't feel good. And I kind of agree with GGG's stance. I just don't think one portal is the answer. I think 2 portals at the very high end is the solution, because you shouldn't be dying 4 or 5 times per map. I don't think 6 portals is the solution, because if you're dying that many times per map, you probably need to take a look at your build and make some improvements, or just scale down the content a little bit, get some currency together, and then make improvements. But dying to a random one-shot or an explosion or just poor visual clarity and losing Divine's worth of tablet charges and juiced maps, that just turbo sucks, period. And then when you fail a map, like, you still have to complete it again. For pathing, maybe you could go around, but like if I'm doing maps, if I'm doing this one, and I fail, right, I could go around. Or if I'm just trying to do this tower, I probably don't want to do an extra, 6 or 7 maps. So it's like I fail a map and then I have to go in again with no tablets. And it just doesn't feel good. I don't think 1 portal per map is the ideal solution, and I don't think 6 portals is either. I think the sweet spot is just 1 safety revive, and there can even be a trade-off. Because with pre-tower juicing, you only had to use 6 mod maps in towers to unlock all of your tablet slots. And then you could run maps with 5 modifiers to get that safety revive. And I think that is like a perfect trade-off. So you can choose to run 1 less modifier on your Waystone. You would lose a little bit of maybe pack size, maybe a little bit of rarity. You would lose a little bit of your bonuses for that safety revive. So just bringing that back, I think, would just be so valuable. And we can see you unlock your first tablet slot just by running a map, and then you unlock another one at 3 modifiers and another one at 6. I mean, this could be like 1 modifier, 3, 5 modifiers. So if you're running 1 less modifier, you get that safety revive. Or it could just be, run a map with 2 modifiers to unlock this slot, run a map with 4 modifiers, and maybe you could get up to 2 additional revives while still getting all of your tablet slots. Because currently losing a tablet is such a huge decrease to just overall loot. Again, it just doesn't feel good. And like this system, it's not really even affecting the top like 5% of players that are never dying, that are bringing in most of the currency. Like, it's just punishing the less experienced, the less knowledgeable players. We have like Mace Warrior XX23 over there spending 20 minutes to clear a map. So it's just like, why are we punishing, those players with no revives? And I don't know. That's kind of like my reasoning, especially with just the visual clarity, the on-death effects, and just the loss to fun per hour if you do happen to die. But again, that's my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think, because maybe I'm over here just huffing loony fumes. Maybe everything I'm talking about just sucks. Like, I don't know, maybe some of you are like cheering when you die. Yes! Oh, I'm going back to the drawing board. I'm gonna make some improvements to my build. I'm so glad I died. Yes, it's making me a better player. I'm better now because I died. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many people are going into maps with that mentality. Not me, at least. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. The next thing I'm really hoping for is improved map crafting. We're not getting this, absolutely not, but imagine the world where when you right-click a liquid emotion and you control-click them, instead of putting 1 in at a time, you put 10 in at a time. And then imagine the world where you control-click a map, you hit instill, and instead of just sitting here doing nothing, it instantly teleports back to your inventory. So imagine the world where you can put 3 stacks of your desired emotion into this crafting window. You control click, you hit instill, it teleports to your inventory. Control click, instill, control click, instill, control click, instill. Just bang, 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 bang. Oh, please. That would make crafting, map crafting, so much better. I fantasize about being able to craft maps that quickly. We're not getting that. I don't see a world where GGG makes map crafting enjoyable. But imagine if we could craft maps like that. And the next thing I'm hoping for is a defer all button in rituals. So you go to your ritual, you have like 2 columns of previously deferred items, your deferral cost is 0, which is pretty common to get, and you have a little button somewhere, defer all previously deferred items. You click it, and everything's deferred. And then you can manually defer like 1 or 2 more items, next page of loot. Defer all, defer 1 or 2 more items, next page of loot. Just imagine the world with a defer all button for rituals. Oh, please. So that's something I'm really hoping for. Will we get it? Probably not, but I can hope. The next thing is a tip section in the game. So hopefully you've seen some of my other videos. I make lots of guides like tip guides, currency farming guides, etc. just trying to help players get more enjoyment out of the game. So a built-in tip section, so we have like, inventory skills. If we had something, we'll press B for example, and then a window pops up and it just has like 20, 30, 40 basic tips that 10 to 20% of players don't know about. It would add so much value to the game. And I mean like basic tips that I've covered that a lot of players don't know about. For example, there's an in-game market that you can open by pressing /. I imagine 20% of the players don't know about this. Add that to a tip section. And then another tip. Resistances are important. If you take a 1000 damage hit at 75% resistance, 250 damage gets through. But if you're at 50% resistance, 500 damage gets through. So the difference between 75% resistance and 50% is you taking twice as much damage. Little tips like that. Or it's like, hey, you can add quality to rings and amulets. Or it's like, hey, you can add a passive to your amulet with distilled emotions. So just a tip section with 20, 30 plus tips that most players don't know about. And everybody wins if we get that, because something like this benefits the players who are less knowledgeable, who are really struggling with the game. So just having something in-game with vital tips to get more enjoyment out of it, like everyone wins, because the bottom 20% of players are now going to enjoy the game so much more by actually kind of knowing how to play it. They're going to stick with the game longer. They'll bring in more items into the game. They'll make it further into the end game. They'll probably wind up buying stash tabs to hold all of their loot that they're now getting because they are enjoying the game and they are able to farm and survive. And it's just a massive win for everyone. And I don't know how many people are like, no, that would make the game too easy. It's like the fun per hour increase that literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of players would get just by a tip section, by knowing how to play the game a little bit better. Will it happen? Probably not. But I cannot fathom a universe where basic tips and tricks would be worse for the game. I don't know, like maybe 1 out of every million players would see a tip section and be like, what? With training wheels? This game's too easy for me. Closes it, uninstalls, never plays again. I can't imagine that something like that would be worse for the game. And next, I'm just gonna kind of talk about the Temple of Chaos, because this thing turbo sucks. Like, Trials of Sekhemaz, people don't enjoy that, I think because they don't realize it's a roguelike and you need to really build up those relics, because if you go in with 75% honor resist, 10,000 honor with 200% increased defenses, I mean, that is turbo easy. But the Trial of Chaos, on the other hand, this thing, it just, bleh, like, brother, ugh. Now, why is this so bad? The main flaws is all of this running to get to the action, right? And then this guy, he's gonna freeze you for like 3 seconds. He does this like 3 or 4 times per run if you do 10 rooms. And then we also have this elevator where you just kind of sit here for like 3 seconds. So between riding 2 elevators, waiting for the guy to spawn the enemies, I mean, we've already lost like 7 seconds times 10 rooms. It adds up, and when a run only takes 15 minutes, if we're spending 2 minutes of that riding elevators, being frozen, waiting for bosses to spawn, waiting for enemies to spawn, and then we just sit here, we wait for the doors to open. There is so much downtime. This is just like a nitpick from me. I think this trial turbo sucks because of all of the downtime, because of waiting for the elevators, waiting for these stone doors to open, the running between each zone. Like, again, if a run takes 15 minutes, if you're spending 2 to 3 minutes of that riding elevators, waiting for doors to open, it needs to be better. /hideout. If you didn't know, there are / commands that you can put into the text window that do various actions. I covered that in another tip video, and that would be something that could be added to a tip section, for example, that players probably don't know about. Anyways, the Trial of Chaos, I think that turbo sucks. And something else, the current meta strategy for running Trials of Chaos is to leave after the 7th room, I believe, because the 10th room doesn't drop the expensive soul cores. So the meta farming strategy is to not even finish the trial. Something has got to change with the Trial of Chaos. That's all I'm gonna say. And then the final things that I'm hoping for in 0.4, now there have been like whispers of getting Delve in 0.4. So I remember Delve from Path of Exile 1, and what it is, it's like an infinitely generated like map device, effectively. I last played this like 6 or 7 years ago, so I don't know how much it has changed, but from what I remember, you start somewhere and you just keep delving, you keep going down, and as you progress, you know, the enemies get a little bit more difficult, the drops get a little bit better, and it's just like another end game mechanic. So you could choose to like do maps, or you could just choose to delve and make it, you know, hundreds of nodes deep, and it's a completely viable farming option. So I'm really hoping we get Delve in 0.4. I hope it's ready, because that could add so much to the end game, because right now it's like, okay, so you run maps with your preferred piece of content, rituals or breaches or whatever, or you run pinnacle bosses like Arbiter, Olroth, the expedition boss, or maybe you run like Trials of the Sekhemaz or the Trial of Chaos. But having Delve, I mean, that is a 4th, like, major piece of content that we could be running. Again, there's only been whispers in the community, like GGG, I don't think has said anything, like, official about Delve, but I'm hoping we get it. I think that would be so much fun. And the final thing that I'm hoping for in 0.4, I mean, this list could go on for hours, but I'm just gonna end it here. The final thing that I'm hoping for in 0.4 are challenges. I came back for 0.3 because they said we would have challenges. But what we got were 3 challenges that were unlocked by completing like the first 2 acts of the game. So I'm really hoping we get like Path of Exile 1 challenges. I don't know if they're saving those for like the official 1.0 release, but having challenges adds so much direction to the end game. You know, it's like complete 200 tier 15 maps, complete, you know, 100 tier 16 maps, complete the Arbiter of Ash 50 times, or complete 100 of your chosen, you know, Simulacrum, Breach, or Ritual boss. Use 50 Divine Orbs on equipment, like endgame challenges like that. I'm really hoping we get challenges, because that would just give you like a reason kind of to grind and to do things that you probably normally wouldn't do. I think that just adds so much value, so much replayability by just giving you goals effectively. So I'm really hoping we get challenges. And again, you know, this video could have been 2 hours long with me just yapping for things that I hope we get. But I think I'm gonna end it here. Let me know if I'm over here, you know, tinfoil hat on, sipping loony juice. So maybe everything I am hoping for, maybe everything just sucks. So let me know, and let me know what you're hoping for in 0.4, and we can just kind of yap about it a little bit. And I think that is going to be just about it for today. So, as always, everyone, take care.